engage, disrupt, adapt, repeat. You're listening to Pure Reinvention, the podcast for curious people.
Welcome to episode 127. This is the month where we are discussing ownership and specifically the CEO and board president or chairman role. And this will be the last month of the ownership quarter. And I think we've done a really nice job of setting up a couple of great interviews that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks that one of our team members, Sonya Robinson, has captured for us. So I want to, Sonya, introduce you to the listeners. Sonya Robinson, who is a valued member of Team PureReinvention. She's been with us since the beginning. In fact, kind of introduced us to some of the opportunities that are available in Detroit. She's been a trusted friend. She is a individual who has a master's degree in project management. She is a valued member of the Detroit Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau. She runs her own successful consulting business, and a little known fact that I think Sonya maybe doesn't want me to share, but I think is extremely important, is also taking vocal lessons and one day has as an aspiration to sing with Beyonce. So Sonya, welcome to being a co-host for the month of June.
Well, thanks for having me, Mike.
I, Sonya, think that the ownership focus that we have for June is so appropriate, and I really appreciated you running the interview with Deanna Richardson, who is the president and chief executive officer of the Michigan Lodging and Tourism Association. I believe that the two of you, Sonya and Deanna, are great examples of the ownership because in your education, in your success at the DMCVB, in your role at creating a successful consulting firm, and certainly with your role in initiating, taking the singing lessons, which has some sort of a connection to Beyonce. I'm not sure exactly what, but in your initiation of all those things, you have really owned your journey.
This week's episode is sponsored by Willpower Consulting. Whether it be pursuing new avenues in content delivery like podcasts or developing a sustainable content building strategy, Willpower Consulting is with you every step of the way. Get a dose of willpower at WilliamRCarlson.com or at William R. Carlson on Twitter.
Can you share with us how you got interested and inspired and owned this journey of taking singing lessons and the connection to Beyonce?
So the ownership, it was a personal challenge of mine to build confidence in my ability to sing. When I would find myself singing in front of family or friends, they always told me that I had a nice voice. However, I never felt comfortable performing in front of them. And so that was the whole earnest behind taking the vocal lessons, was to simply build confidence. With that goal in mind, there was also an endeavor to build a nightclub of where I could be one of the featured artists. But I think I've put that one to the back seat for a minute, just still working on building my confidence though.
Well, that's the first that I've heard about the nightclub, but I will guarantee you once we know what the name is, it will be sure to plug that in our podcast. Sonya, you have, from almost everything that you and I have interacted with, which has been about 5 years now?
Sure.
We've been interacting. I have been extremely impressed with every single thing that we have done. You have taken the ownership role and either taken the lead or supported me if I'm taking the lead in making sure that whatever endeavor we get involved with has been successful. And you and I have gone into a lot of areas in which it was not well defined, that we had to kind of figure it out as we went until the clarity became very important. It was one of the key roles that brought us together was your ownership of making sure I was able to do a successful assessment phase for the American Society of Association Executives that were coming into Detroit, which was extremely important for the Detroit Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau to have a successful event, which it was. And you were the one that made that first part of the strategic plan for that very successful. I think the characteristics of individuals that take that ownership role, like you do, Sonya, you also saw with Deanna Richardson. And I think you had to have been very impressed with how she's owning that journey. Can you tell me a few things that you were able to pick up from Deanna that our listeners will hear in the next month that really kind of captured your interest?
Well, having a seat as a president of a board of a local chapter of the American Business Women's Association, I'm always interested in learning how I can push myself forward and also motivate and inspire the executive officers that sit at the same table with me as well as our members. And so I enjoy connecting with Deanna because she, number one, is a proven individual who has been able to own her space as a president and CEO, and even in her job titles before that. And in listening to Deanna and most recent podcast of Pure Reinvention, I was reminded that it's the personal curiosity that an individual has that drives that ownership component. And it's also the passion that a person has and interest that they have in a particular subject that, again, drives that level of ownership.
Let's take that for a minute and talk about it, Sonya, because you brought up something really, really important, and that is personal and the professional curiosity that is step one in an individual being able to take ownership. So before you can really own something, you have to be very curious about it, and you kind of study it, and you try to get your hands around it, and you try to understand what it is so that you can do your very best at your involvement. And so how have you been able to use your curiosity? You talked about the interest in singing upon the encouragement of others, but talk for a minute about your own curiosity and your own hunger to want to find out more.
You know, every time that question comes to me, I'm always reminded of my TV time with Mr. Rogers and how he was able to open doors for us and connect us to different skills and trades and people. And it's by way of that relationship that I built with Mr. Rogers through the TV screen that brought me to Pure Reinvention, and how I was able to find my own celebrities and friends in my own backyard and able to learn from them. And that was during the assessment phase, of which we were trying to find that big, bright, shining light to host ASAE. And even with Pure Reinvention today, as we entertain different podcast guests and entertain our audience by way of starters and corporate retreats, I'm still connected with such celebrities, and they continue to provide keywords that ring a bell for me, that keep my curiosity going. I personally was not one that was driven to sit in a classroom and capture a degree, although today I have a master's. I was most excited about going to the workplace and learning hands-on how to do things. And so it's that level of curiosity that excites me, not sitting behind a book, but actually seeing, touching, and feeling the things that are available to me to inspire myself and that I can share with others.
I think what Sonya is really describing is so fundamentally important to understanding ownership, which is if you have that basic curiosity for what it is or where you are going, that curiosity will allow you to figure out how to own that journey. Without that curiosity, and Sonya, I'd like for you to spend a few minutes and talk about this. Without that curiosity to give you the confidence, couldn't the task be just overwhelming? Isn't that the curiosity that really kind of pulls you forward and helps you understand?
You know, I find that I use my curiosity to take things to the next level. When I get bored working on a particular program or a project, something that I may have been handling for several years, I reach to my curiosity and say, what is the next level that I want to go to with this particular program? And what is it going to take to get there? What's the little thing that I can change that will make a difference?
Listeners of this podcast, you just heard the golden nugget. Sonya told us to reach for the curiosity, and by reaching for that curiosity, it will open the door to next level opportunity and your opportunity to own your next success. So if you're ready for a change, make it a change that lasts. Make it Pure Reinvention.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pure Reinvention. Keep the conversation going and get alerts when new podcasts are up by following us on Twitter at Pure Reinvention or sign up for our mailing list at purereinvention.com.